Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our Android tipping calculator tutorial. And at this point we're actually going to start coding, so let's open up Eclipse. And again, if you don't have it set up, you can search it up online to see how, or you can watch my Android setup tutorial. So open Eclipse and let's get started. I really should have opened this before I started recording, to be honest. Oh well, you guys can just wait with me now. Yeah, not a whole lot to say. For those of you who are watching my Let's Program in Python series, I've decided that's not going to be a daily video series. It's going to be Mondays to Thursdays, because I don't have the time to do it every day. Although I have been having a lot of fun doing it. Okay, so this is what Eclipse looks like. And let's go. File, New, and go to Other. And then there's an Android folder here. Click on the arrow next to it and pick Android Application Project. Next. Okay, let's call it whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it, let me zoom in, Android Tip Calculator. Now, all of these fields have this little eye icon next to it where you can click and, or I think you can just hover over it and it'll tell you what it means. But none of it is super important. So for application name, this is what it's called on your computer basically. Project name, basically not important also, just make it the same as application name, no spaces. Package name. The package is basically where your app is stored on their device, and it has to be unique for all apps. So you're going to want something like your name dot Android apps, maybe dot Android tip calculator, something like that. So for me, I'm going to name it cloudcon dot tutorials dot tip calc. Okay, minimum required SDK. So SDK is software development kit, and the minimum required one is basically what do you need their Android device to have in order for your app to work. And obviously Android has had many versions. So you want to pick one where you capture the most amount of user base, but also don't limit yourself to the really limited sort of, or don't limit yourself to the limitations of earlier SDKs. So what you can do is search for Android or OS version distribution. And then just click on probably the first link. Okay, and it'll tell you what the distribution is like. And if you look from 2.2 all the way to 4.2, at least in January 2013, over 97% of the Android population uses Froyo, which is Android 2.2 or higher. So it seems safe to, and I know that Froyo is a very capable version. So while it looks like it makes sense to start supporting 2.2 as our minimum SDK, so that's what I used. Because if we don't, we lose 9% of the population just like that. Although going lower isn't worth it because it's only, what, 2.4% if we go any lower for the next level. Okay, target SDK is what does your program run on the best, or what is the SDK that runs your program the best? I just put the latest one because why not? Compile with, yeah, just, what does this do? Again, it looks like it's mostly just the most recent version. Theme, this decides what your app will look like, which theme it'll use. Doesn't really matter, you can pick whatever you want. Okay, create custom launcher icon, it'll create an icon for you. You can check this or not, doesn't matter. Create activity, for now let's check that. Mark this project as a library. No, you're making an app, not a library. Create project in workspace, yeah, let's do that. Working sets. Add project to working sets. No. Okay, so this will just create a default launch icon for you. Just click next. We want it to create an activity for us, and we can just make it a blank activity. And we can just have the main activity be the name. You can use whatever you want. It doesn't matter too much. The layout name is the name of the XML file that will determine the UI for the activity, which we'll go over right now, I think. Okay, so it created this app for you, basically. And hold on, my computer is loading. Well, let's give it a sec. Okay, so it created this app for you, and all it has is "Hello World." And we're going to go ahead and delete that because it's useless to us. So one thing we should mention. The way you make Android apps is you have the option to create all of your graphic user interface inside of, or with XML files. And XML is a language that is much easier to use and learn than Java is. So, and it's also a lot quicker to write. So it makes sense for us to take advantage of this fact. And it's one of the best reasons to, or one of the cool, cool attributes of Android coding. But yeah, so we can make our UI in this sort of GUI drag and drop graphical layout, or we can just code the XML here. And we'll go over how to do both in this tutorial. And then later on, when we actually write the interaction, the programming stuff with Java, it'll use the UI that we made with XML. Okay, so let's go into the XML version tab for now and just delete everything. We're going to start fresh. And I think it makes a lot more sense to learn how to do the graphical layout for this and then learn the XML. So let's start with graphical layout. First thing we're going to add is a view, a background view. And I'll explain what that is in just a second. Go under, I think, layouts. Or maybe it's composite. Okay, great. Find the scroll view and drag it and then drop it right onto this gray square here. And now we have a view. And now that we're here, maybe I should talk about what a view is. The thing is, if I go into this, it's sort of a whole big thing about programming. And since I'm assuming you have no programming knowledge or very little, I don't know how long this is going to take. Okay, let's go over some basic programming concepts in Paint. And then we will probably cut the video and move on in the next video. Okay, so Java is an object-oriented language. That means it is a programming language that uses objects. An object is anything in programming that has attributes and methods. So basically, it is a thing. And that thing has things that describe it, which are attributes, and things that it can do, which are called methods. And, okay, how about this for an example? We can have a simple object like a number, or let's go with a string. A string is basically like this, letters. This is a string, and that is an object. And it has an attribute, or it has many attributes. One of them could be length. The length of the string would be an attribute. And it could have methods, for instance, like a pen, which would add another letter to it. So the length is something that describes the object, and a pen is something that the object can do. Let's try a different example. You can create your own objects. You can have like a tiger object that you code, and its attributes could be height, width, age, and its methods could be stuff like, I don't know, walk, run, die, stuff that it can do, stuff that describes it. So that's what an object is, and now we can move on. Great. So one of the most used objects that comes default with Android is the view object. The view object is an object that usually you can see and sometimes you can manipulate. And the view object is what makes up the vast majority of your UI, if not the entirety of your UI. And like I said, it comes default with Android, so you're going to use it a whole lot. It has tons of attributes, stuff like width and height and visibility, stuff like that, and tons of methods as well. And there are lots of different kinds of view objects. There's text views, edit text, and then the one we're working on now is the scroll view object. The scroll view object is all three of these things. You don't have to worry about these two, just they're there for example. All three of these are a specific implementation. Maybe that's not the best word. It's a specific version of the view object. So the scroll view is a view, but it's also a bunch of other stuff that makes it scrolly. And I guess at this point I should go over inheritance real quick. And I don't know how useful any of this is going to be to you. Mostly this is a tutorial. It's not a university class, so we're not going to spend much time on programming concepts. We're just going to make stuff. And if you want, you can either look these up yourself or go on my website. There's a glossary there for this tutorial that has all of this and links to definitions that are much better than what I can give you. But I'll go over this real quick. Inheritance. Okay, with object-oriented languages, objects have inheritance. It's one of the best things about OOP. OOP stands object-oriented programming, I think it's either programming or paradigm, but anyway. So the best thing about OOP is that, or one of the best things about OOP is that objects can inherit from other objects. So you could, for instance, have a cat, and the cat has attributes like age and methods like walk. And then you can have an object like tiger. Now a tiger can inherit from cat, which means it has all the attributes and methods that cat has. But it also has its own specific tiger attributes like number of stripes. And its own specific tiger methods like, I don't know, what do tigers do? Roar. Okay? And then, so the reason this is so great is that you have this basic object here, and then you can add to it without a lot of work. You can make another object that's also a cat object, but it is specifically a jaguar. It has all the attributes that a cat has, but it also has number of spots. And it can also pounce, which I guess a cat can too, but whatever, just an example. So as you can see, the tiger inherited from the cat, but it also has lots of stuff that makes it tigery. The jaguar inherited from the same cat, but it also has its own jaguar attributes and methods. So that's what inheritance is. Now, the view object is the base foundation object for the scroll view, but the scroll view also has a bunch of methods and attributes that are its own and that make it a scroll view. Okay? Okay, that was a mouthful. I'm going to cut the video here. Hopefully that wasn't totally just gibberish for you guys. And again, there are better resources to learn what all these programming concepts mean. We just need a very basic idea so we can move on with this tutorial. So I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to continue.